Okay, we'll get started. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the September 19th, 2019 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. We have a number of discussion items on the agenda today. The first one is Helen Rosenblum, minor subdivision. Is anyone here from them?
Yes, Mr. Cuddy.
I think he's coming.
All right, so the planning department has received somewhat of a unique application, which is requesting that the planning board effectively reapprove a two-lot minor subdivision, which was originally approved by the Riverhead Planning Board. The subject parcel is located on the south side of East Main Street, and is more particularly described as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-109-3-3.3. We've received a two-lot minor subdivision map prepared by Nate Corwin III with the last revision date of September 1st, 2015. Just to go into the original subdivision approval history a little bit. Now, according to available planning department records, this minor subdivision was originally approved by the planning board by resolution at its regular meeting on July 15th, 1999. At which time approved a subdivision creating two lots of 38.2 acres and 0.8 acres. That original map was dated January 25th, 1999, and this updated revised map that we have does show that as the original preparation date. The planning board did hold a public hearing on the proposed two-lot minor subdivision at its regular meeting on July 1st, 1999. At that meeting, Helen Rosenblum did present the details of the proposed minor subdivision, i.e. the existing structures, plans for future development, availability of public water, etc. Upon completion of the presentation, there were no further questions from the planning board or from the public, and the public hearing was subsequently closed. The applicant did request an extension for the chairman to sign the map. On February 3rd, the Riverhead Planning Board did approve that resolution, granting 2 additional 90-day extensions pursuant to Town Law Section 276, which held the time for signature of the map open until August 5th, 2000. Now, although the Building and Planning Department files are incomplete, the applicant did submit portions of the map which bear the Planning Board Chairman's signature at the time. Vice Chairman, actually, Mr. Joe Bayer. He signed that map on August 3rd, 2000. The applicant did submit a portion of the map which did bear the Suffolk County Department of Health Services stamp of approval, which was signed by Vito Minet, professional engineer, director of the Division of Environmental Quality for the Health Department at that time. And pursuant to the conditions of the original subdivision approval, the applicant filed covenants and restrictions of property which were filed with the county clerk on July 27th, 2000. Now, the kind of hiccup that this application ran into is at the time that the applicant received health department approval and the planning board vice chairman signed the map, when they went to go file the map with the county clerk, I believe the font on the map was too small and the map was rejected by the county clerk for filing. And just for various reasons, the applicant never had the map revised and ultimately did not pursue the filing of the map. So, in effect, what we're looking for the planning board to do, we've been speaking with Mr. Cuddy and Mr. Ehlers on this. If the board's amenable, I mean, we do feel comfortable that there's enough of the history established, even though we can't locate some of the original files. If the board would sort of memorialize the history of this subdivision application, we can prepare a resolution which would memorialize that, and in effect allow the applicant to sell the lot and pursue it further.
Let me just add something to it. At one time, after the incident happened where we couldn't get the map filed, the Daystar people came in here and were gonna do a subdivision at this site. And we, on the map that we then had, this lot was part of even the Daystar subdivision, just to get it approved again. That fell apart because the people from the Daystar group, the church people, never continued. So this has been sort of in hiatus for a period of time, but the lot's been here, it was originally approved, and all we're trying to do is for the owner of the lot to try and get some memorialization so that we can maybe file with the clerk to say that this lot exists, because at this point in time, the person who owns it is not well, and we're just trying to get it so that she can really sell the lot.
Is this the exact map that was approved in 2000?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing.
No,
With
nothing's changed.
larger font?
It's better, so you can
Which
read it.
font?
What happens when you go to the, and everybody should know this, when you go to the microfilm people, they say, the line here is too close to the numbers, and we can't pick it up. And so you go back and forth, and you can do this 3 or 4 times. And I think what happened is there was a set of frustration set in, and just didn't get done. And then again, we were gonna do with Daystar, and we thought we were gonna get it done for her at that point, but didn't happen because those people disappeared. So it's the same, exact same lot, it's never changed.
You have an approval from the health department.
Yes, we did.
It's not signed. This map is not signed.
No, this one isn't, but we had, the problem is we don't have the old map. We have sections of the old map, but it shows it was signed by the health department and signed.
But in order to file that, you're gonna have to get it.
What we were gonna do is just use the one lot, we weren't gonna do it the entire, because
Is that it, Greg?
we never did.
Yeah, these are the portions of the map that show Mr. Bayer's signature and the health department's signature. What's the zoning on that parcel?
Right now, part of the parcel, I think, was zoned 1 acre. The rest of it up here, this end is zoned CRC.
What are all these foundations and
Duck
buildings?
buildings,
I mean, I don't know.
They were,
Do
that
they
was
go
part of
back-
the old duck farm.
Yeah, I think that was.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then this is coming up now because they wanna do something with the property, or
Yes.
is somebody interested in buying it right now, or?
Yes, she's at a point in time, the owner is at a point where her health is poor,
Yes.
and that's why I'm here.
People living in the 2 lots? On 1 and 2?
Not that I know of, no, I don't think so. It's pretty open and it's pretty messy, I think, in the back.
Lot 1 is all the way over there at the corner.
Goes all the way, yeah. This zone here is CRC, when you get all the way up here.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like a minor technicality, everything was already approved, so I don't see a problem with this.
No.
Joe, you signed it.
That's why I asked if it's the same map.
Yes. Same way.
Okay, so you'll, Dick, you don't see any issue with this?
No, we've wrestled, Mr. Cuddy and I have wrestled with this. You know, it's a historic problem, and the lot's created, the house that's on it pre-existed, none of the setbacks are issues, so it just seems like it's time to move on.
Okay,
We'll write something up for your next board meeting.
all right, sounds good.
Just look at my other file.
All right.
But we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. We're gonna draft a resolution, which I think just memorializes the history of it on that one.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item 2, Tara Minor subdivision.
Back again.
Come back.
Same.
Long time
Yeah.
no see.
Double duty.
You need some maps? Yeah.
Okay.
I have one. I'll just look at the one you opened.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Can't tell from your picture where this is.
It's on Ellen Street near Rabbit Run. Alright, so Planning Department has received and reviewed a two-lot minor subdivision application seeking approval to subdivide an existing 79,588 square foot parcel and create two separate building lots. The application does also involve a smaller 7,527 square foot lot, which is located to the west across Ellen Street and is presently owned by the applicant. The planning department has received a minor subdivision sketch plan prepared and stamped by Howard Young, land surveyor, last dated August 5th, 2019.
What's the size of that, of this piece?
This is about 7,500 square feet.
What's the benefit of the town by taking that parcel?
Well, so that's in it, so,
Historically, that was part of, this, just if I could interject for a moment, this was noted as a water district parcel. It was gonna be used by the water district. They couldn't use it, it didn't have good water. So this was also part of that, and that's how that parcel got broken up. I don't know why it was broken up that way in the map, but both of these are called water district parcels.
I'm just curious what the benefit is for that, for the town to take that.
well, so it kind of ties into, cause as Mr. Cuddy stated, when this subdivision map that we're reviewing before us now, was originally part of a major subdivision known as Tall Oaks Estates, which was a 99-lot major subdivision approved by the Riverhead Planning Board by resolution dated August 22nd, 1988, and whose final map was filed with the Suffolk County Clerk on July 17th, 1990. On that original subdivision map, they had prepared a yield map which showed 110 lots as an as-of-right development. The land at the time was split zone between Ag A and Residence C. Through the subdivision process, they eventually reduced the lots from 110 to 99. I think a lot of that had to do with, there was a lot of slopes and a lot of grading and drainage easements that were spread out throughout the subdivision parcel. The signed map of the final Tall Oaks Estates major subdivision did identify that both of these parcels were to be conveyed to the Riverhead Water District. The original intent was to use this land as well sites for the Riverhead Water District. Now, as a result, the applicant never paid the required fees for this lot, as they were gonna be dedicated to the town, which the total fees were approximately $70,000. So if the planning board approves this and subdivides that lot, those fees would eventually be paid to the Riverhead Water District.
They got a credit for
Yeah.
that. So we could pay that back.
So subsequent to the approvals and the build-out of the subdivision, the Riverhead Water District found that site would be no longer beneficial to the district, as they didn't have the ability to produce potable water from the site, and as such, the plans to develop it were abandoned.
Is it public water?
Yes.
So that's where this parcel sort of came into being. Now, the reason it's important in respect to this entire subdivision, as they're being proposed right now, it's located in the RA 40 zoning district, which requires a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet. Right now, Lot 1, which is presently improved with a single-family residence, is proposed as 41,446. Lot 2 is 38,142 square feet. Now, I had discussed this with Mr. Ehlers earlier. As it's proposed right now, if we're just looking at these two lots, they would require a variance because that lot is undersized. Now, one possible suggestion that we have is if we incorporate the size of this lot into the size of this parcel, both lots meet and conform to the zoning.
As long as they sterilize it.
Well, so
We
that's the question has been raised of, staff is gonna recommend, and we've reached out to the highway department to see if they're willing to incorporate that into part of the town highway system. Now on page 4 of the staff report, I did take a picture. I mean, the lot, it exists, it's, completely wooded. It doesn't appear as though there would be any sort of additional maintenance that would be encumbered by the highway department if they were to incorporate that into the highway system. One potential issue, if we do sterilize it and put covenants on it, I mean, it would still exist as a single and separate lot, even if it was tied to one of these lots. Now, just looking down the road, someone could just say, why am I paying taxes on a lot that I couldn't do anything with? That could eventually go into default and go into a tax sale through the county, which could nullify any covenants or restrictions that are on that property. So sort of just looking forward, we're here to see if the planning board would be agreeable to incorporating the lot size into that, considering it part of the lot so that it meets the dimensional requirements, keeps them out of the zoning board of appeals, and then offering it as dedication.
Gotta sterilize the lot.
Well, if it's
So
dedicated,
that therefore, in the future, even if it is single and separate, it can't be built on.
well, if it's dedicated to the highway department,
Well, if they take it, even if they don't.
We don't have a problem doing
Yeah,
that.
I know.
mean, that's,
Yeah.
we don't,
They're
we,
done, and the
I
highway
don't see
department
why
can do
the town
whatever they
would-
want.
It's just an additional
Yeah.
liability,
Mhm.
the cleaning, dumping, or whatever happens there.
Anything.
Yep.
There's no benefit, no public benefit. I think I would make it part of lot 2 and part of their lot.
well, I think the concern was, at least, Dick Ellis and I discussed it, was that if it was part of a lot and the taxes weren't paid, it would go. We don't have a problem sterilizing.
But if it's part of the lot, lot 2,
Yeah.
lot 2 is part of the lot, it's gonna be one tax bill, it's not gonna be 2 tax bills.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. We think they're gonna give it 2 tax map numbers.
So,
Yeah, and that was the
If
problem.
we could get it to have 1 tax map number, that would be fine, but I
If it
don't
was
think
one-
real property.
And then we would sterilize it.
I
I
see.
mean, we're not intending it to
Okay,
use it
well.
ever.
Dick, there's no
Whatever you
provisions
guys
for that in a situation like this, where we can make it one lot? It's up to their discretion.
Their obligation is to account for all property in Suffolk County and be sure that it's all paying taxes and is accounted for. You know, and each parcel gets a number. They've gotta give it a number, and each number generates a tax bill.
Well, I can
I
see
guess-
the argument later on that this person is going to say, you know, I can't use this. You know, I mean, I'd like to have someone, aside for the town, be responsible for the cleanup of, you know, whatever mess people may make in there. And if he owns it, you would think that individual would make sure that no one dumps in there illegally or whatever.
I guess we could ask the assessors if there's a way they can suffix the tax, and by suffix, I don't mean county of Suffolk,
Right.
but suffix the tax bill so that if one's paid, the other has to be paid simultaneously, but we were just afraid that someone might just inadvertently say, why pay that tax bill? It's, you know, it's across the street, I can't
yeah,
use it.
but that's the tool that he used to get a subdivision without a
That's right.
variance.
So
Yep.
All right, well, whatever you guys think's fine.
we'll work on it a little more.
So the fact that there's a town road that separates the parcels that you're trying to make one,
It's 2 separate parcels.
is that typical anywhere else in town, where we have a situation like that?
See, I think the road was laid out that way to meet the topography, but also we needed a 200-foot radius,
For a well?
well protection
Protection,
zone,
yeah.
and so that picked up, you know, that,
Hmm?
That's why
it didn't make any difference that the
Yeah.
town owned it on the south side.
We can sterilize it, this is progress.
Yeah. So, does it show on here where, because they had some test wells on this property, right? They must have.
Long time ago.
Twice.
So there were test wells, were they properly abandoned? And where do they lie on the property? Because if they were properly abandoned, they're probably filled with concrete, and if they're right in the middle of the lot, that could be a problem.
Fine.
I think before you go too deep into it to locate them where they might be, I mean, they could be deeper back, I don't know, but
can
I don't
ask
see them
Howard
on
to
here.
send somebody out there to check it to see.
There is a house.
Should be a
on one
survey
lot
of it
that-
somewhere, right?
I'm hoping.
I think they should show that, so the house is,
The house is here.
at least the map has that.
This one does.
I'll go back and look at the original subdivision approvals further to see if I can identify where those test wells
Well,
are.
Howard Young did the work on that, as well as this map, so he
Okay.
maybe can tell us where they are.
You should know. The water district should know.
Yeah, I'm hoping, you know.
Right, so I think it's, you know, what the takeaway from this is trying to identify the issue with that, whether it's gonna be highway or if it's just gonna be tied to the lot number
Yeah, I
two.
just don't think it's a public
Yeah.
benefit to take that lot, so we can tie it to lot 2, there's no variance, and they're responsible for,
No, we understand it, 'cause it doesn't bother us to do
Yeah,
that, I'm just,
okay.
so.
no big deal.
All I was hoping is that we could get to a point where we could have a hearing on this, because there's nothing else, lots are there. If we can do that, we can sell this house, and we can pay the 70,000 back to the town, so.
Sounds good.
So if we could set it up so that we could do, we'll find out the information on it.
Yeah, I mean, if we can identify where the test wells are and show them, I mean, if we can get that stuff before the next meeting,
Okay.
know, if the board's agreeable, we can schedule a public hearing at that time and move forward on it.
I'm also assuming that
File a covenant on that.
this house is on this lot
When you step
already?
on it.
Correct.
And
Yes.
how,
So that it becomes part of the record.
Oh, yeah, you need to sterilize it, yes.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
even if it pops out of tax
It
sale,
would
et
still be
cetera,
sterile.
somebody looks at it and says, you start looking at the data, I can't buy it anyway.
Yeah.
I can't build.
so given,
You know, I understand, and that's not a problem.
Yeah.
given the fact that this house is already built on lot one, the side yard, the front yard, is there any,
Yeah,
it's
they're
all
set
been?
back to the back, yeah. We have a CO, by the way, for that.
Okay. So if the,
What a house would be.
if it were to be
Yeah,
two lots.
They
it
did
would be a
demonstrate
problem.
the building envelope.
Thank you.
You make a note, Greg, make a note on your, that I'd like to get a copy of that.
I'm
I
happy
have
to.
it small. Oh, good.
Okay. Here you go. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next item, discussion item is Stop and Shop.
Yep.
The good side is the bad side.
Yeah, either one. We alternate. Depends on what day.
Okay, so you are, if you could just introduce yourself, please?
I'm Joe Petroselli, the developer builder representing Stop and Shop.
Okay.
Brian Stark, Glenwood Village.
All right, Greg, just if you could try to avoid that.
All right. So the planning department has received and reviewed a site plan application proposing to install sound attenuating material directly to an existing commercial building, to install approximately 410 linear feet of a 15-foot tall black vinyl chain link fence with an acoustical barrier material along the southern and southwestern property boundary at the site of an existing grocery store,
Thank you.
as well as installing the same type of acoustic barrier around the existing loading docks behind the building. The site plan also proposes to install a new 250 kilowatt fuel cell energy system near the eastern side of the existing building, which will be surrounded by a new privacy fence, as well as the installation of new safety bollards to protect the unit. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA, with coordinated review being optional and not recommended. Staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency status without coordinated review, and recommends the issuance of a negative declaration, as the project will serve to mitigate the environmental impacts of noise disturbance to neighboring residences. The site we're talking about is on the southwest corner of the intersection of Old Country Road and Mill Road, which is presently improved with a Stop and Shop store and related improvements. The site is bordered on the west by Riverhead Toyota and by Glenwood Village residential community directly to the south. So the reason this application came to be is that there were a number of complaints from the neighboring residents at the Glenwood Village property located directly to the south of the subject location, just about the general noise that was created on a day-to-day operation from the Stop and Shop and the grocery delivery service known as Peapod. There was a noise study which was performed by VHB dated January 9th, 2019, which found that the general day-to-day operations at the subject site created noise levels which exceeded the permissible commercial use sound levels as dictated by Section 251 of the Town Code. This study at the time recommended a 300-foot long, 12-foot tall chain link fence with acoustical curtains, which would reduce the noise by approximately 15 decibels at the neighboring properties. Subsequently, the town engaged with SoundSense acoustical engineers. They provided a supplemental study dated April 3rd, 2019, which found that the noise levels would best be mitigated by the installation of approximately 410 linear feet of chain link fence with acoustical barrier along the property line, the installation of approximately 102 linear feet of fencing with the acoustical material around the loading docks, as well as the installation of sound dampening material on the exterior walls of the Stop and Shop in the loading dock areas in order to help minimize the bouncing of the sound in the loading docks. Now, as a part of the installation on the southern property boundary with the chain link fence with the acoustical barrier. The application right now basically calls out for clearing all of the existing vegetation along that southern boundary, including a bunch of large arborvitae trees and some oak trees near the southwest corner. And it calls for the replanting of 34 Leland cypress trees with a height of approximately 10 to 12 feet. It is noted on page 5 of the staff report, I did take some pictures of the existing vegetation in the back there. The staff doesn't necessarily take objection to the removal of the existing arborvitaes if they're gonna be replaced with something that's similar. However, that patch of oak trees in the back, if there's any way to retain that, as seen in figure 4, I mean, I think that would be really the right move to try to preserve some of the vegetation.
Why are you taking out all the trees? Why?
So
Are they
the,
in the way of the fence?
the new proposed fence to install it, they're 3-foot auger holes
Okay.
that are 3 foot off the existing fence. So it's just right in, they're in the line,
Okay.
they're in the zone.
I've taken out oaks on our side already in anticipation for planting the Lelands, because as you know, the Lelands grow better when the oaks are in the way. So we'd rather have the new Lelands go up 25, 30 feet. They're gonna grow better without crappy oak trees shading them.
What's their initial size?
Joe, what did you put on the plan?
I believe the plan calls 10 to 12 foot.
Yeah, they'll get big fast. They'll get plenty of sun.
Does material go from the ground up to the top of
From the
fence?
ground up to the top of the 15-foot level.
What's the lifespan? I don't know, this is some kind of plastic, what's the lifespan, is there any idea? I guess it's made
As
for this
specified,
application?
yeah. This is what our town sound consultant came up with, this material. It gets glued, it gets lapped, there's nothing can go past it.
Nice. Yeah,
That's why the
big-
design of the other footings are so.
Big addition for that area.
So these are 6 foot on center, 6.5-inch pipes, 23 feet long.
Yeah, 15, yeah.
So imagine that this gotta take this load, this wind.
Right.
So it's a serious footing there too now.
Do they, the pieces you put up, do they have holes in it like that?
Those are grommets just to hang it. Remember, these are
Yeah,
15 feet
right,
long.
Right.
They're 250-pound rolls that come down and
And
then.
they're that wide?
No, they're like a wallpaper size,
Okay.
56 inches, something
Okay.
like that. So they're custom, they
Yeah.
come in a roll, and the grommets is where you lap it, which gets tied to the chain link fence. So there's
How
a
about
black,
on the bottom?
the bottom, there's a bottom rail.
Okay.
So
How does it
it's
attach to that bottom?
with
The eyes too?
the eyes. The eyes.
Is it more economical to do this than the sound wall on the other side of the mobile home park?
Sound wall on one side.
Well, across the
What's up
street,
there?
over at,
No, on the other side.
Costco, right?
Between,
You mean to put it on our side of the fence?
no, by Dick's, the one that we put up behind.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Wild
completely
Wings?
different.
Well, see,
Yeah.
we looked at that, it just didn't give us the height. See, this whole study that we learned, it's the top of the truck that you gotta get.
Right.
And that's why it went to 15 feet. Cause and we're trying to follow this contour down here as best as we can with the grade, so at least it looks like it's not a.
Right.
Goodness. So that's the proposed color.
Is
right
something
there.
gonna go on the building itself?
Yeah, this is same company.
This is the material that goes on the wall, that's the material that goes in the fence.
So
Very
that gets
similar, very
fastened,
similar.
around the Peapod delivery area on the wall and the loading dock wall. So it's meant to stop the reverberation, as Greg said, from bouncing
Off
around.
the wall, makes sense.
So this will be from 5 foot up
Nice.
on the wall.
Okay, next question I have is, what does this fuel cell
Yeah.
thing do?
I don't know much about the fuel cell, that's a company
I mean, the
that,
company decided to do it,
So-
must be a reason.
yeah,
That's why we're
to
going
pay for the wall, what else?
What's that?
To pay for the wall.
No, the cells had to come before the wall, I'm sure.
It's all incentives, they have all these incentives now, right, to.
No, I
to
mean,
pay the
yeah,
bills.
that's how the financial incentives, or is this thing gonna take the place of the electricity, that run
No.
the Stop and Shop?
Doesn't give you that much power.
Because you got a new gas line coming in, you got.
Did
Just-
the interior, they spruced that up.
Yeah, that was one of our projects. We built that store originally for Stop and Shop off Wall. And I think we renovated it 3 times already.
Yeah, big time, this one.
So how does, you and your community feel about this? You okay with it, or?
Well, we've been asking for it for 10 years, since the intensity of the operation increased with the Peapod and the store. The residents, as you know, have been complaining, code's been in there numerous times. They're anxious for anything that's gonna mitigate the noise, and when we brought in Sound Sense, and, you know, Joe's been very helpful, you know, putting his input in, because he's done Stop and Shop stores. We're ready to go, you know, I mean, it's gonna be a hell of a lot better than it was, so we know there's a supermarket there. We're not trying to put them out of business, we just need to lower the volume. And this should do it, because Sound Sense was the one that the town decided that should properly spec it out.
What's the overall reduction in the decibels?
I don't think it
I-
gets there, but it's a
I
lot
think it was
closer.
approximately 15 decibels that it was gonna reduce it by.
The nature of the sound over there is, what I've learned, it's impulsive sound. So a guy pulls up in a truck and drops pallets or opens a door. It's not like a lawnmower that drones on for 20 minutes. It's bang.
Shot.
Yeah, it's like a shot, and that's why the 15-foot high barrier with the absorption material is going to take that noise and suppress it to a point where it doesn't,
Right.
don't jump out of your skin, you know?
I would say what happened, hold on, what the hell was that?
And for the most part, Stop and Shop complies with the code. I mean, occasionally you have a truck pulled back there at night and, you know, the guy's idling or whatever, but the managers, for the most part, know that there's a code. They don't operate in the hours they're not supposed to. It's just during the day. The wall is gonna definitely lower the volume.
Alright,
What do you think? You folks are satisfied with what's going on?
Yeah, I've had discussions, to answer your question, I've had discussions with the residents, and I've told them what's going on. I said, look, if Joe's involved, and, you know, common sense people put their head together, they understand.
I think it's good, our intent is to go out there and look at the landscaping, the benefits, the guy looking out the window, right? So we'll figure out where we wanna place them in the best interest of
Right.
where the shrub should go.
So just a couple of things, just to wrap up. Regarding the height of the fence, town code specifically requires a 6-foot high chain link fence with stockade wherever a buffer zone is required between a commercial and residential property. However, there are provisions in the town code which allow the town board to amend or waive the requirement for a 6-foot fence. So what we've done is I've drafted up a resolution to distribute to the town board for the next town board meeting. Obviously, the town board is very aware of this situation, so I've got a resolution that would allow the installation of the 15-foot fence without requiring a variance from the zoning board. It's just something that's within the provisions allowed in the code, so I will distribute that to the town board. The only other issue that I've identified with the plans, town code requires 24-foot wide drive aisle where there's two-way traffic. Due to the placement of the sound fence outside one of the loading docks, which as Mr. Petroselli said, is due to the size of these holes that need to be dug and the size of the columns, it does reduce the drive aisle behind Stop and Shop here from 24 feet to 21.7 feet. Unfortunately, there's no getting out of the need for a variance for that situation. We will recommend that, you know, no parking in that area be striped out, just to ensure that in the event of an emergency, if there is a vehicle, you know, there won't be a vehicle there, so they can get emergency vehicles around
So
this site.
something like right in here, we do hash this all out, so no one parks there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kinda, when I reviewed it with the fire marshal, that was
okay.
one of their comments, but,
Well, that's
Hey,
easy
what,
enough.
a plan has got another new generator?
yeah, there is some switchgear, some new, equipment that's being proposed, to the south of the site in this area. I believe that's just related to the fuel cell. I think they're
Right, they're
two
putting
new-
the energy back in the grid through that, gearbox, through that switch gear,
Okay.
outdoor switch gear.
Greg, the one thing, Joe and I were just brainstorming about, is it, I don't know, I haven't looked at the plan that greatly. Would it make does it make any sense to make the back access aisle one-way, and therefore don't need the variance?
I mean, I guess that depends on the operation, I don't know enough
I don't
of the
know the
details
operation
as to
myself.
where
The
the trucks.
through where.
Yeah.
Can they go
Well,
around,
you know, there are
can they
people
get
walk
around
through.
here? Can the truck get around
They do
this?
already.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Yes, they do.
the trucks
This is
come
pretty
in
much the
here,
route.
there's-
They come off Mill, they go and they go out. Same thing. They're the ones coming back and then going out.
Yeah, they typically come in from Mill and go out, right, around the west side of the store.
But I think the hatch is a good idea too, and you know, it automatically is one way pretty much anyway.
I mean, if we go with just the hatching, if we change the traffic flow to one-way traffic, you would obviate the need for a variance, so it could just kinda help speed the process up. But again, I think that's a decision for, you know, the operators of the business.
Mhm.
I have no objection to it, it would meet the code, it would prevent the need for a variance.
That's the easy way, I
So
agree.
easy way is one way.
Yep.
Yeah, so traffic would have to come off of Mill and exit out onto 58.
Just,
Right.
if you go that route,
That's
run
what
it
they
by
do.
the fire marshal again.
So the code is 24 feet, Greg?
Yeah, for two-way traffic, 24 feet unobstructed.
And that's just a series of arrows, right, basically.
Yeah, they can put it up one-way signs.
They'll go any way they want anyway.
Yeah, they run over everything, is right. So we're adding all these nice bollards around. It'll last more than a
You
week.
can knock them over.
Four hash marks, you said. So but
Yeah.
if we do hash, we gotta do the variance.
Correct. Yeah, if
So
you
hash
if
means
you're
variance.
maintaining two-way traffic, you need a variance, cause it doesn't meet the 24-foot unobstructed.
One way, we're fine.
One way, you're fine.
A little difficult.
And that, and Bowler would have to join in.
They were in the parking, your people on trucks, they're parking like sort of close
Yeah,
to
they're up here.
the main road. They're up in the, close to the,
Toyota.
25.
Mhm.
That's where they're stored now, so they have to go out on 25 and come back into Mill Road. Is that difficult for you?
They
I'll
can
run
come
it by
around the side of the
operations,
store.
but you know what? It's gonna be, it's their choice.
But I mean, that's a good point, because, you know, if they're so used to just going in that way and loading up and leaving, are they really gonna go from where they're parked out and all the way around to one way?
Well, maybe the one way ends here, right?
I mean, they could drive around, I don't think they necessarily have to go out to
No,
58.
they
I
just
mean,
drive
could
down
just
the
go
east
around
side of the
Go
building.
around the front of the
Yeah.
store,
Go
drive
around
down
the
the
front of
east
the store.
side.
They
I
don't
mean,
have to go on
I think
the-
it's,
they
I
don't
think
have
it's
to
a
go on the road
retraining
to
matter,
do
you
that.
know, for their employees, I don't think it's any
Well, a
insurmountable.
couple signs one way and
Yeah.
It's true, they could do their own parking lot
they
probably.
just go right through the park themselves.
Yeah, I don't think that's an insurmountable obstacle to just.
See what happens here too, don't forget, when we share this with Toyota, and all their trucks come in.
So, your client may not want the
Well,
traffic
It's a
to go
one-way,
there, so let them,
he can only go one way,
let them decide.
Right.
right?
So-
Because we got that guy coming in.
Do these trucks enter and exit? Typically, the trucks, do
They just come, they can only fit coming in this way.
they come in and then they go out through the.
And that was,
Toyota?
I guess, an agreed thing that the landlords had. So I don't think there's a problem at all with a one-way.
Your light is on, excuse me, your light is on.
It's better for the noise if it's one-way.
I think whatever, it's gonna be
So I'm gonna suggest the one-way is the way to go.
I mean, if that's the way you wanna go, I have no objections to it.
I'll run it by them.
Bowler would just need to, you know, show some one-way signage.
And Greg, you were just confirm with the fire marshals.
Yeah.
What kind of information do we have on the fuel cell? It's not a noisy thing, is it?
That was one question I had. I mean, I did note in the staff report, the location of the fuel cell is on the east side of the building. It's approximately 200 feet away from the nearest residence.
All right, well then.
It is sort of obscured by the building, the privacy fence, and the sound attenuating fence that's on the property, so.
Plus, it's
Yeah,
gonna be.
that
they're
was-
also
that was
providing
the
their
reason
own
I asked,
attenuated
this way
fence.
Doug's not
Yeah.
faced with another problem.
And George, they're also providing their own, sound attenuation fence for that unit.
Right.
All right,
as well.
all right,
So it's-
all
right.
So, all right.
And there is decimal documentation somewhere.
Yeah.
We submitted it somewhere. But as we're clear too, they're gonna get a separate permit as not to hold up this fence, cause Brian is like, he's calling me every day,
Is that gonna be a separate submission?
I mean, it's all been submitted, I think, because right now, we're not in a position to be able to approve the sound fence until the town board considers that resolution
On
to
the height.
amend the height restriction. So I mean, the next town board meeting's on October 1st, our next planning board meeting's on October 3rd, so we're not in a position to be able to approve it before the town board would consider that, so. If the town board adopts that resolution at their meeting, as long as Stop and Shop can get the revised plans demonstrating the one-way traffic, I think we're in a position to, possibly be able to issue an approval at the next meeting, if everything works out.
Be nice to get it done before the turkeys start rolling in the reefer trucks. Thanksgiving.
The next one's October, what is that?
Next planning board meeting is October 3rd. Town board's gonna consider that measure on October 1st.
Do we need to finalize the colors somewhere in this, or is that, where
I
does
mean,
that happen?
If the board's, is the board okay with these colors? There was
Any of your plans, okay?
gray one or?
This one, and black, this is the three colors they come with, so I thought that's just the best color.
I mean, we're not gonna be looking at it, what do you think?
Neither am I.
I think with the black
No,
chain link
but
fence.
your
this
people
is-
will call
this is
you.
the one.
You know, I
Well,
think
it's gonna
that
be
would-
on the other side of the wall, right?
I think this gray color would probably lend itself to not showing the dirt as
I mean,
much.
frankly,
Well,
when
the
those
Stop and Shop's new
leaves
colors
grow
are
up on
gray
our
also.
side,
Nobody's
you
gonna see
shouldn't
it,
see
yeah.
anything, right?
Nobody's gonna see it, right, so.
There you go.
This is gonna be written up, and this will be going to Stop and Shop's attorney, how does this work now?
What was the question?
This recap of this, right? Karen, does this go to,
I
where
mean,
does this go?
we don't, I mean, we
Town's
don't.
attorney, then? How does this get back to Stop and Shop, these comments today?
I mean, they can get a copy of my staff report, other than that, I mean.
Can I
it's-
get that?
Yeah, absolutely, they can get that, and I mean, I think it would be under your
Yeah,
purview to
fine.
kind of relay the effects of the meeting. I mean, if they wanna review the minutes, they can do that as well,
And you have to amend this plan
Right.
to show
in
the
time
one-way traffic.
before the
Yes.
resolution.
Well, I just gotta get past them to make sure that the traffic flow will work that way as well.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece for them, I think that's the biggest piece for them to address, is the one-way traffic. If they're okay with it, give me that correspondence, let me know, and we can address that.
Very good, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate
you.
it.
On another note, you guys do some beautiful job and hometown, looks great. Just wanted to say that.
I'll be at the next one, the meetings on that one, trying to get that decided. Thanks, everyone.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you as always.
Okay, next item, Riverhead Chrysler Dodge Mary Ellen Real Estate.
Hello, Karen. How's Karen today?
I'm good, how are you? Okay, yeah.
Hey, Jane.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
Doing good.
Are you Mary
Wait,
Ellen?
you know what? I'm actually Jane.
Mary Ellen.
What's it?
That's her mother.
You have the plan, so.
Oh, I got it.
Hi, how are you? How are you? Okay, the board had approved a preliminary site plan for the car dealership. And one of the things that we had, kind of left to be determined later was the cross-access. Just to kind of recap, I have a plan that kind of, so basically there's, shops at Riverhead with Costco to the west. There's the, I think it's Millbrook, trailer park to the north, which is zoned and then to the east, you have a professional office, which is part of that professional office development, that comes out on Commerce Drive, and you have a, strip shopping center. So, I understand, the car dealership isn't anxious to have a lot of cross-access going on. Just also, there are no cross-access easements in place on the surrounding properties, so this would be not anything that's gonna be constructed now, it would be a future cross-access agreement.
Let me just stop you, Karen. Did you guys buy the historic right away there? Or
Yes. That's
you
part of
did
the
buy that?
parcel, yes.
It is part of the parcel
Mhm.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we can maybe, Tim can probably chime in here. Some of the concerns might be able to be, ameliorated with, a future cross-access agreement that goes into play when the site might be redeveloped with another use sometime in the future.
Yeah, my client was concerned about where it would be placed, and actually, we met at the site today, and Jim DeLuca, he made a good comment, he said, no place is a good place, but I think there are some places that are worse than others, and I think it's because of the difference in grade. She would love nothing, the client, more to have cross-access, so her clients can go through either Costco or maybe go out back on Commerce Drive. But I think, Jim's got the map there, and we were thinking about maybe trying to iron down a place where it could go, but that was difficult.
I did try to measure out, I got the plan for, the shops at Riverhead next door to the west, and I took your plan. It's at different scales, but I
Yep.
measured it out. And there's this road here, that would come out way back here, so I don't think that would work.
That's what Jim and Jane were saying when we were there today.
And then, you have two traffic aisles in the front here, these two traffic aisles. The northernmost one would come out here. And this is where you have all your handicap parking and the crosswalks, so I don't think that's the greatest. The southern, traffic aisle, would align here. As far as I can tell, it would require, taking out a parking stall and taking out some land bank parking stalls.
On the adjacent
On the
property,
adjacent
yeah.
property. There's plenty of extra parking over there, so I don't think that would be an issue. It would take out some landscaped area, but I did get some,
Jim, what do you think the grade differences are?
About 4 feet.
About 4 feet?
I did do some pictures, if the board wants to take a peek. It would only impact like the grass portion of the, landscaping, it appears, so. Sure.
You wanna? Yeah, up here, this is,
No.
up here?
This is sort of right here.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
There's gonna be an east-west traffic aisle here, and if you did cross-access, it would come out in this.
Would you want it so close to the driveway in and out?
Well, again, the driveway is over here, this would be the cross-access point over here, aligned with this traffic aisle.
And where does that bring you on the Costco side?
That brings you out approximately here.
Into the front parking lot, right near that
Can you show
traffic
us
aisle.
on here where you're talking about?
Yeah, it would be in this area where people would be coming out.
How would that benefit?
Yeah, what,
Well, it would be some sort of connection.
Does that make sense here? You already got this road here? Comes up
Right,
an aisle?
the road that you see,
Mhm.
this road here,
Yeah.
coming, to the north of this building, that would come out way back here, to the rear of the
Oh, the
car dealer
proposed building?
building,
Ah,
so
okay.
it's quite far back.
Gotcha.
What about farther back?
I didn't think you would want it further
Oh,
back, truthfully.
gonna store all the cars back here?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, you don't want it back
exactly.
there.
That's where,
Okay.
really, no place is really, as much as I would like it. Unless we went over on this side over here to Commerce Drive, where we looked at it today, the elevation there is very little. It's maybe 2 feet, we figured.
2 feet,
difference.
it's
So
2 feet.
That would connect
Right here,
to,
correct.
A parking lot.
a
Yep.
parking lot, and I believe it would reduce some of their parking, which they probably would.
Yeah, there's two stalls over there that are facing east to west. But in front of that is the driveway, the backup driveway for the other parking. and that runs east to west also, and the cars in that are north to south. So, in other words, when you go through, there was 2 parking stalls here, and then their driveway was like this, and it goes, that parking lot goes into their major driveway and wraps
We
around.
have no easement on any other parcel, right?
No, we don't
So
have
this
any.
is probably,
It's-
we shouldn't spend a lot of time because
No.
Yeah, and we never got one, or the town never wanted one when the other sports place was there, right?
Well, that sports place was there for, I don't know how long, and the town hasn't, 20 years ago, they didn't know from cross-access.
Well, when
easements.
Costco was built, they never asked for it either, right?
Right.
Well, that was because,
Because it was an easement.
there was Foxwoods there,
Okay.
their property, and it wasn't felt there would be a need, but that just kind of brings to the fore that you never know what's gonna happen, so we probably should have gotten a future cross-access over here, but, be that as it may.
Thing is, do they, in Commerce Drive, do they have to come in for any more site plan approvals?
Not
I
at
don't
this
think it
point.
covers Park.
Well, so, if he doesn't agree to it, you're wasting your time.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
we're
moot
not
point.
asking anybody to agree to anything now.
Yeah,
um,
well, I mean, even if he's built out, and he doesn't have to come back in, there's no way you
They
can.
do changes and stuff, sooner or later they will come back.
Yeah,
Or something, but,
well,
I mean, the way to go might be to address future, long-term future changes, might be to have some sort of future cross-access agreement on all
You
the
know,
property
I-
lines,
I-
but with the provision that it would be based on a future redevelopment with a different use.
I don't know that I'd wanna ever see cross-access from those buildings in back of Commerce Drive. I think that would just encumber that property. There'd be people,
Right.
they'd be
What-
trying
what
to
I'm
beat the
saying is-
lights and whatever, trying to go through that property. I don't think that would be a good move at all.
Sometimes in the future, there's wide-scale redevelopment, and we would like to retain some sort of cross-access in the future, so it's really up to the board, what the board wants to do.
no, I think we could word it that if there's any significant changes to the use, we'd have to revisit it.
And a new site plan for
Yep.
redevelopment.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
And we should
I'm
also
okay
keep
with
in mind
that.
it's the same for the other parcels, if something happens over there, if they come to us.
Right, of course, yes.
So meaning if there's a use change, then it gets
Significant use
revisited?
change on your property.
Right.
You have to revisit it then.
The
Not when I'm
cross-access.
going to do any remodeling or reconstruction?
no, it has to do with additions
Changing
on the
the use.
buildings or things of that
As
nature.
long as you keep selling a lot of trucks, you'll be okay.
Yeah,
Is that-
I'm
is that
thinking
my
of some
understanding
sort of
correct?
redevelopment that would, something significant that would require, would be a change of use or would require a site plan, that
Right.
kind of thing.
So if 10 years from now I wanna make a change, then we have to
Revisit
No,
revisit the cross easement at that
It's
time?
not
Yes.
developed,
Right.
yeah.
Which is a moot point. Moot point to the neighboring
Right.
facilities.
So I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep
Okay.
over it.
Okay, so I'll work on
Yeah.
something before the
But
final.
it doesn't even
and-
back up,
Okay.
it backs up
Run it
to it.
past
Real
you and-
long
And I think this is not
Gotta leave the
owned
door
by,
open
I
first,
think
that's
this
it.
is privately owned.
Okay,
Privately owned.
thank you.
Listen, I'm not
I don't-
opposed
if
if I
he
had
owned it,
access
he
to
would've
the
built
light,
it.
it might benefit me, I'm not a,
Yeah, she would like her people, when they
So that
come
was a
out, to be able
foreclosure.
to make a left
Years
turn, but
ago,
you
yeah, the
can't,
whole
Yep.
site-
right?
the
So
whole-
it'd be
the
nice
whole
if
thing
she
was a
could.
foreclosure.
Right, and that could help you.
absolutely. So that's why if it could work for me on the Costco or the Commerce Drive side, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Cause that's really the only place that you can
Yes.
get cross access that makes sense for anybody. Okay.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Take care. Get it done sooner or later. Okay, next discussion item is PBMC Northwell Health Cancer Care Center.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't read it.
Hello, gentlemen. Good afternoon. You all know Andrew Mitchell, the CEO from Peconic Bay. This is Darren Busso. He's the Capital Projects Director at Northwell. And this is Albert Thompson, the architect.
You want another
So,
chair?
here. Guys, I'll sit over here.
There's one over here too.
Thank you very much for especially staff, for the way that you prepared the report, and we appreciate the time period in which you were able to
And
do
you
this.
just got
and-
$10 million.
Right out to Andrew.
Yeah, I wish, yes.
We were very appreciative of the fact that the board put us on for work session and that Karen got the report ready as fast as she did, so thank you.
Okay, so, I'll just go into it. The applicant proposes to convert a portion of the vacant space in the former PC Richards, retail store into an oncology center. The building is currently partially occupied by a medical office. The building is 21,156 square feet. And even with the development of this portion of the building, there's still going to be vacant space. What was provided was an as-built survey and a floor plan, and the floor plan included parking calculations. It showed the current medical office use, the proposed cancer care use, and space that would remain vacant. So the amount of space that's to be altered is 7,740 square feet. So the property is located at 896 Old Country Road. It's on the north side of Route 58, between a muffler shop and.
Where's Route 58?
This is a floor
Which
plan,
side?
but the,
This is the front of the
that's the
building.
front of the
That's
building.
right.
There's a muffler shop to the east and Burger King to the west. Further past Burger King to the west is Peconic Bay Medical Center. To the north is the former McGann Mercy High School, which is now vacant. So it's within the Riverhead Sewer District and Water District and is connected. So there's an aerial view on page 2. It's not exactly accurate to the existing site conditions because handicapped stalls were placed in the front of the building, and some of the pavement markings are a bit more faded than depicted. Just a little background. Like I said, it was previously a PC Richards retail store. There was a de minimis exemption for 21st Century Oncology in 2011 that indicated, upon recommendation of the ARB of approval, that the application be deemed de minimis and the requirement for site plan approval be waived. So that document describes the work as installation of a new dumpster enclosure and new conforming exterior lighting. But it was actually for the change from retail to medical office for a portion of the building, and also a facade change.
But why would the ARB make a recommendation for a change of use?
No, well, like I just said, it was for a facade change.
Okay, that I can understand,
Yeah.
but they didn't have anything to do with the other changes.
Right. I think they looked at the, I'll get into that a little later, they looked
Okay.
at the landscaping as well. The ARB sheet also indicates existing landscaping to remain and some additions would be added. So, I'll get into the landscaping a little further on, but, in the past, the whole building couldn't be used for medical office because it wasn't hooked up to sewers, but I did get a letter from 2008 from the Riverhead Sewer District indicating it's connected. So as far as this application, it appears it could be approved as an administrative site plan, but that's up to the planning board, and the planning board must determine if a public hearing would be required. As far as secret goes, it's been determined it's unlisted with coordinated review, not recommended. I guess the most important issue is the parking. The parking calculations are based upon the existing medical office use, which is listed as 7,147 square feet, and it's shown on this plan, I believe, as
Hatched
the
area.
hashed area there. And the proposed medical office use, which is listed as 7,740 square feet. However, I'm gonna open this up, so I missed that microphone.
Sorry.
So this is Route 58, this is the doorway into the back parking lot. These spaces will remain vacant. The one thing that wasn't included in the parking calculations is this hallway, which is not allowed to be excluded from the parking calculations.
Hey Karen, do we know if 21st Century Oncology, did they
Right, did
include
they
that
include
hallway
the
in their
front door?
calculations?
I don't know, but it's not allowed to be excluded, so.
So both tenants would have to include it in your double count in the parking then?
No, I'm not saying you have to
Oh,
double
okay.
count it.
You're
You'd
looking at
have to-
overall, right?
Right, you'd have to count it in the overall
Is this
parking
where
calculations.
where the real estate people are in here?
I
No,
don't
this
think
is
there's
where
any
they wanna
real
go.
estate people. It's
No, there's
supposed
only one
to be-
tenant in there now.
Right.
It's
Who's in
Pro
there?
Health.
This is
Oh, that's
Pro
Pro
Health.
Health.
So just to add to that, so we're all familiar with what is actually being provided in the building. So the existing space is radiation oncology, which means there's a very, very large area that is a vault where the linear accelerator is,
The entire area.
that generates the radiation. Only one patient can be in that room with no other staff members at a time. So that, on the ProHealth side of this, between the CT scanner and the radiation oncology linear accelerator, you have very few people on that side of the building. You can only have, as I said, one patient at a time in there, and you only have a couple of staff members running the machine. Takes up a lot of real estate because it's a big machine.
So
It's not a typical medical office.
So if we were to get, could we reduce the amount of parking spots based upon the reduction in actual, in other words, can we take, if these, let's just make an assumption, they take up 2,000 square feet, I'm just picking a number. Could we take that away from the calculation?
I think that's where you were going,
If that
right?
was, you know.
Not necessarily, because I think there are multiple solutions to this if we want a cancer center in town, which obviously I think we all do. I just wanted to be clear that that real estate only has a couple of people in it.
Our parking calculations really don't
Allow for it.
allow for that. I mean, if they wanted to, let's say, take the linear accelerator out of the parking calculations, I think we would be open to that, because that's kind of a mechanical equipment, which is allowed to be excluded.
What about the
But-
vacant space?
We did exclude that, right, from the
Right, the vacant space
calculations?
isn't
It's not in
included
there.
yet.
It's not in there.
So my only comment was based upon what was given to me was that the hallway would have to be included. So that would add a few more parking spaces. I couldn't figure out exactly how much, but.
I think we estimated 5.
Yes.
So, the parking calculations indicate 100 parking stalls are required, 48 spaces for the existing use and 52 for the proposed use, and 77 parking spaces are provided for a deficiency of 23 parking spaces. But as I said, that would increase somewhat. So the parking calculations refer to the Town Code Section 301-231, which indicates required parking spaces shall be provided upon the same premises to which they serve or elsewhere, provided all spaces are located within 200 walking distance of the premises served. So the plan lists that the Peconic Bay Medical Center parking lot is 172 feet from the subject property. However, when you actually go to parking spaces, it's significantly more walking distance. So,
Where is that measured from and to?
well, I measured it from the closest part of the parcel with the medical office on it. I measured across Burger King's frontage, across Peconic Bay Medical Center's frontage, where it's like a landscape sump type of area, and then going north along the side of the driveway to Peconic Bay Medical Center and to the first parking stall. So.
If I could just, Karen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. That's not what the code says. The code says that it's to be measured, provided that all spaces are located within 200 feet walking distance of the premises served in all cases,
Right, so I went from the, if you go.
lot to lot,
you go-
that's how I'm
So how did
doing
you
it.
measure it? I
I do
understand
it
how
lot,
you do
I
it.
do it lot to lot. I think that's the reading that I get from it. If you read it, it doesn't say stall to stall, from stall on one
No, I
lot to
went
stall on
from
the other.
the closest part of the parcel.
Okay.
And then I went to, it says, provided that all spaces are located within 200 feet walking distance of the premises served. So I went from the closest part of the parcel to the closest parking space on the Connex Bay Medical Center's property.
It doesn't say that, the code says
Well,
premises
that's how I
served.
read it, we can get an
You know,
interpretation,
is
I
it distance as a
suppose.
crow flies
Well, I think we
between
can-
two properties?
I came up with
So I came up with
454
62
foot.
feet.
He's got a different measurement, so why don't you tell them what you did
I
yesterday?
came up with 454 feet walking distance.
What did you come up with?
I came up with 62 feet.
And how did you measure that?
I measured from the back parking lot to our parking lot in the back.
Of,
Where are you, in the north?
No, on the north side,
Well,
right here, here.
that you can't walk because it's, I don't believe you can walk, because that's Burger King's property.
No, you walk onto the Mercy Hospital parking lot.
It's fenced.
So we.
They're
all right,
already
we'll take the
renting
fence
those
down.
spaces from Mercy.
isn't there a grade change there, a big grade change or no?
Just a little bit of grade change.
Where's it
Which
going?
is that?
Where's that
Mr.
north?
Petroselli.
Yes, on this side.
Well, that-
and
Yes, so
proceeding
right-
west.
Listen, here's the
here to
thing, as
here.
far as I'm concerned. If we wanna have
Parking
this
lot is
cancer
here.
center, which I think we all do, yes, we have a deficiency in parking. Let's figure out how best to address that, given the fact that we have the Mercy property over here. I might be in negotiations, hopefully with the diocese, to acquire the whole Mercy property. We have off-campus parking with shuttle buses going by this every day long. I mean,
Well,
the
I
parking
think
can be
I
addressed.
addressed how it can be solved, by going to the zoning board with a survey showing the walking distance, and getting a variance.
But if we just demonstrated we're within 200, why would we have to go to the zoning board? Mr. Mitchell just said that he can provide parking, and that parking space that they already occupy, get Mercy's, permission to walk across there if parking need be. And, there was one comment that both Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Busso made was, and myself, when I went there, nobody's parking in the back of this building. Go there any time of day. I went there myself. They all park in the front. That whole back parking lot, the whole week is empty.
Even the front you
But
drive
it's
by
not
any day,
occupied.
there's
It's
five,
that- that
six
would-
I'm
cars.
sorry?
You haven't occupied the
No, I'm
space
just
you
saying, we're
want.
not cutting into Pro Health's
If there was
parking.
access,
The
but
whole
right now
back
it's
parking
fenced.
lot would be
Okay, but-
someplace where this tenant could park.
Different ownership.
There's nobody there.
Do you
So the need of.
have,
additional walking.
what is this piece here?
That belongs to Burger King. It's a wooded piece of their property.
Sean Walter was gonna condemn that for us.
Do you have legal access to this property here to do what you said?
I have to talk to the diocese
That's
about it.
perfect.
Oh, we have
Yes.
legal access to this piece,
We'd
you
have
know,
to go
right.
across
They've been
Mercy.
very helpful with a
This is
temporary
where we're
landing
parking
pad to
space.
give us access over here.
I doubt we'll
I
even
don't
get it.
think this would be an issue.
I mean, I think
But
there
I
is a
don't think we
walkway
have to-
there already, isn't there?
Yes,
Somewhat
there
of
is,
that
it's, there is a great difference, I walked it yesterday.
Yeah.
So, you know, I spoke to Sean yesterday, when this whole code was created. There's a real difference in interpretation, whether this is walking from a parking space to another parking space, or lot line to lot line. We're within 177
Well,
feet.
again,
Here's the way
I'm
I
not
feel
going
about
from
it. Instead
parking
of-
space to parking space, I
instead
was
of
going
splitting
from
hairs on
property
who's
line
right
to
on
parking
that.
space.
I look at it this way, the hospital is the anchor and cornerstone of the community. It would be awesome to have a timely cancer center put in instead of worrying about details. I feel it should be a de minimis, and as far as the public hearing, I think anybody that would like to be treated with cancer could care less about that formality. I think we should do whatever we can, as rapid as we can, to help the hospital. And if there's a parking issue, I can guarantee you, they'll deal with it with trams or
I just ordered I have two
Parachutes,
brand
whatever
new
you gotta
trams
use.
running right now, they came in yesterday.
I think we should just try to move forward as fast as we can to help the hospital, and I have complete confidence in their ability to make sure their people have parking and able to go from wherever they gotta go.
The other practical side is, I'll have the staff members, if parking is an issue, which I don't think it will be, but I can have the staff members park off this campus and just tram them, because we have trams going down the street every day,
Once
every
you
minute
buy
of the
the
day.
hospital, the school, or whatever happens, I'm sure changes will be made to make it up to code.
So, I mean, I would agree with everything you said, Ed said, to, you know, make it de minimis, but we should really identify how we come to the agreement on the parking, one way or the other, whether it's this back way, or whether we have the, opinion of our attorney of how the code is actually calculated, but, because we have a difference, you know, with the way we're being advised, and if.
Ken, how about this as a stipulation?
If this could be done.
All the employees of the building will be required to park off-site, making any of those spaces available for the staff, for patients. I can do that.
And we could also put a timeline on it, like, you know, you
Yeah,
have
give
1
me-
or 2 years
Give me 2
to-
years to work out the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get Mercy, we're gonna be back here telling you we need the parking garage anyway.
Right.
Yeah, there was a condition in the approval of the hospital for their addition, back in 2017, that, prior to any further additions to the hospital building, not include an increase in beds or an increase in new floor area other than 1,000 square foot addition, the hospital would have to agree to construction of additional parking.
That's for the hospital building,
Mhm.
that's the hospital property.
And we have a surplus, I believe.
You're gonna have to deal with parking one way or the other in the future,
As soon as
so-
I can get a clarity on whether the diocese will sell Mercy to the hospital, everything else will fall into place.
So I just wanted
Well,
to be clear on direction.
well, I think we should just get some advice on this as to the interpretation, because we may be debating something that's not necessary.
Sandy, would you like to go with the idea that you have a covenant to require the tram parking for a period of time, and if they can't resolve it, otherwise they have to go to the zoning board at the end of that period of time? I mean, that gives them a chance to.
And that lets us
prosecute
keep
the zoning
moving.
board out. What I've heard from everybody here are zoning board issues of the nature of variance, but I'm also hearing that you have a timeline to meet, and so the tram idea for the employees seems to be the best, because to push people into the parking lot that he has a covenant on already that says he can't park more people there, that doesn't seem to be sensible. The tram removes the employees from the parking equation, so.
And knowing that such a large footprint, there's only a couple people in there at a time, you know, we unfortunately have to debate something that's really not gonna be an issue.
Yeah, it might not be.
Yeah, we
an
have
issue.
tram running right now. We have,
Okay, but that would be acceptable to me.
We could write a covenant.
And we can
that'd
keep
be great.
moving.
Thank you.
So you're gonna agree to
Yes.
address the parking, you know, in a certain amount of time,
Yes.
and we'll put that in. We could do the, administrative approval, we said?
Administrative, yeah, without a hearing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you, yeah.
Were there any other issues you?
Yeah, I just wanna go through,
Sure.
That was the big one, though.
That was the major one, I would say. As far as the site visit, the curbing along the driveway was in terrible deteriorated condition, so really should be replaced.
Yep.
Yes.
Pavement markings, some of them were, in poor repair or faded, and a lot of the, some of them were faded to non-existence on the west side of the rear parking lot.
Yeah, they will take care of that.
You want us to stripe the town parking lot while we're doing it?
The stockade,
Touche.
the stockade fence on the eastern property line had missing slats and deterioration, and, either needs to be repaired or replaced. The asphalt in the parking area behind the building had some potholes near the drainage structures and tarred cracks and uneven areas, so.
We're gonna resurface.
We'll fix all of that.
We're gonna,
All
they're
this,
gonna
yes.
submit another a site plan showing all these things.
Well, that's up to the board. I'm gonna go through it all and then I'll get your recommendation. There's some pine trees planted to the rear of the parking area that encroach into the parking spaces, so those need to be trimmed or removed from the bottom. There are handicap signs that are not protected by a curb in the back that aren't in the, 6-inch diameter pipe filled with concrete. Handicapped access aisles in the rear parking area don't have no parking signage, so that should be put in. in the same manner. The fire marshal did comment on, no parking signage in the fire zones. There's only one on the west side of the building, which is striped out. And there's a pile of RCA type material in the parking spaces at the rear of the building. The survey, which was submitted, there's several additional light fixtures, that are not shown on the survey. The fire zone markings and no parking signage are not shown. There's a drop curb in the front of the building for the handicap parking, that's not depicted, and neither are existing trees or existing landscaping. So, we could go maybe just with, I'm not sure how the planning board wants to handle this, but obviously, if there are new light fixtures, that should be shown on a lighting plan, so we can, determine if those comply. If the board wants, other things to be handled as conditions, like they have to restripe, they have to fill.
It sounded like they were.
We're gonna reseal and stripe.
Okay.
And we had
bring
some
this-
concerns with the illumination back there, so we're gonna add some new,
Okay, as long as it's dark sky compliant?
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, so we can condition most of these things, but we will need a new lighting plan.
Okay.
You're gonna be able to designate spots, new parking spots for Pro Health? And then with like a sign for Pro Health?
It's really all one cancer center, so it won't matter. I mean, you're either coming in to see one of our medical oncologists and getting infusion, or you're coming in to see the radiation oncologist to get radiation. We won't need to, it's gonna be one combined program in there. It's all cancer care.
Is this a rental property, or do you intend to acquire the property?
Right now, it's a lease. In the future, if the LLC is willing to sell it, we would consider acquisition. Not to put all my cards on the table, we're also looking at another large vacant property on 58 for the program if it grows as much as we think it will.
The reason, what I wanted to bring out was the back of that property, to close proximity to the other lot. Put a driveway in there, solves all the problems.
So listen, if we,
And I don't think they would have an issue with
if
that.
the diocese would agree to sell Mercy to the hospital, which so far they have not, everything changes. Everything changes. Parking is
So
solved.
you've had some negotiations with them?
No, we have not. We've tried to.
Oh, that
The town
big.
supervisor is trying to help us.
Okay, so as I just checked the building elevations, they seem to match what was in the file for the most part. Any differences do not appear significant. As far as the lighting goes, it appeared to all be under the 16 feet maximum mounting height. The lights that were supposed to have been installed as per the de minimis approval were high pressure sodium, so there wouldn't be any issue with the Kelvin rating of LED. It just, we would want to make sure those were still there, and then identify the other lighting and update the photometrics.
Yeah, we'll do a lighting plan.
As far as the landscaping, it looked like it matched what was on the de minimis plan, and they had added some additional landscaping, so that appeared okay. The fire marshal wanted all the fire zones to be restriped and proper signage every 50 feet. So we could maybe just put a condition in when the time comes about the signage and the restriping. Town engineer's comments, just, I think there was a typo in your letter that said there would be 104 spaces would be needed when it's actually 100. The water district, I did get an email from them recently saying that the whole building had been calculated in the initial key money for the medical use, so no key money would be due. The title report I heard from the town attorney's office, and I did forward it to Kim, that there's some,
Yeah, the property owner's addressing those
okay.
bullet points in
Yeah,
town
just
attorney's
some
memo.
incomplete items. There were couple of interesting covenants, one about the facade having to remain brick as it was on the PC Richards, but obviously that's been changed. And, about all fencing being, black chain link fence, and all the fencing there is
Stockade.
is not black, so, so I guess those, we'll just disregard that at this point. I did forward the application to the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, 'cause it's on a county roadway. I don't foresee that they'll make many comments other than they want the, maybe the handicap ramps to be updated, so, and then, the planning commission, I did forward it to them as well for comments, I haven't heard back. So, what I'm hearing is we'll update this plan for the correct amount of parking, and we'll get a updated lighting plan,
You want a site plan? Updated site plan with the survey information on it?
well, maybe we can consider the lighting plan kind of the site plan, but we're just gonna show the lighting, and if maybe DPW had any comments, you should
Sure.
update that.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if they ask for a 239F, we'd have something to give them.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, and Dick will provide or help with the language for the,
The covenant,
right,
okay.
with the timing for the parking.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Karen?
Good question.
Here's the third piece.
What is it?
The three surveys?
Oh, well, if anybody wanted to look at a full size, I have them now.
I'll take one, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Karen. Thank
Okay,
you.
next discussion item, Verizon Wireless at Tanger Outlets. What do we have here with, from Verizon?
Yes, Matthew Zabel now, attorney for Verizon.
Okay. All right, John.
The planning department has received and reviewed a site plan application to modify an existing wireless communications facility. Regarding secret, the proposed action is not listed action. Coordinated review is optional and is not recommended. Staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency. Status for secret review, without the need for coordinated review, and issue a negative declaration pursuant to secret, as there will be no adverse environmental impacts to the surrounding area. The proposed installation of a small cell public utility wireless communications facility will be located within an existing building located at 200 Tanger Mall Drive on a 47.3 acre parcel within the Business F zoning district, and said parcel being more particularly described as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-118-3-4. The surrounding uses include riverfront corridor, open space conservation, and industrial. On page 2, I have the figure 1 is an aerial from town GIS, and figure 2 is a picture I've taken of the tower where the proposed modifications and installation will take place.
So John, this little star, that's the location of it?
Yep, that's the store of the tower, location of the parcel.
Okay.
There'll be no visual impacts. The new roof will be designed to match the existing roof. The proposed antenna are gonna be within the building, and the GPS units mounted on the exterior facade are to be painted to match the building's facade. So there'll be no visual impact. The planning department has received an 8-page site plan prepared and stamped by Scott M. Chassie, New York State License PE, with last issue date of July 8th, 2019. We also received a 6-page drawing index prepared and stamped by Karapaparan, sorry, I can't pronounce his name, New York State License PE, with the last issue date of July 18th, 2019. We also received an antenna site FCC-RF compliance assessment and report prepared by Daniel J. Collins, Chief Technical Officer for Pinnacle Telecom Group, stamped and signed by Peter M. Longo, New York State License PE, last dated May 30th, 2019. We also received a structural analysis report prepared and stamped by Michael S. Troden, License PE, dated July 8th, 2019, and a structural certification letter written, prepared, and stamped by Michael S. Troden, New York State License PE, last dated September 5th, 2019.
These certifications and the stamped analysis, that was paid for by Verizon?
Yes.
They were your contractors?
Yes.
In other words, there's no independent contractor. They've all been paid by Verizon.
Yes.
Do you have a generator?
No.
That was my question. Those aren't generators outside?
Oh, there's no proposed generator.
There's no
Okay.
proposed
I don't know
generator.
if there's an existing one.
There's currently, there's something, from what I was reading this earlier. There's a telco box on the ground floor.
T-Mobile has existing
T-Mobile has it, and that,
antennas.
you're going to do away with that
Where,
and lift everything up from what?
T-Mobiles are a little lower. There, if you're looking at the picture of the tower, T-Mobiles are sort of like around
All right,
where the
good,
sign
good,
is.
good, okay.
And Verizon's will be
Okay.
above, under
Yep,
the roof.
Gotcha.
The height won't
That I
change.
understood, yep, all right.
Alright, so the proposed exterior tower work will be replacing the roof with an existing building with a new RF compatible roof, installation of 2 GPS units mounted to the exterior building facade, remove and replacing of a rooftop access hatch, and routing existing electrical and telco conduits from an existing T-Mobile electric meter and telco box on the ground floor through the interior of the building to the proposed antennas. For the proposed interior tower work, it will be the installation of 8 panel antennae mounted below the new RF compatible roof, and installation of 12 small cell units and associated equipment mounted to the interior of the building. Regarding the RF analysis, it analyzed the potential RF exposure at the site from all proposed Verizon wireless communications equipment and all other carriers, including T-Mobile. The report states that the RF exposure levels at the site will be 7.7336% of the maximum permissible exposable limit, well below the minimum levels established by the FCC.
Can I get a quick question? Why do you feel it's necessary to replace the roof?
Because
With the new material?
the material that's up there now will interfere with the antennas, and the signal leaving the antenna will be blocked and won't get through.
Is that copper?
I'm not sure. I know it's
So
regular,
it looks
but
like-
it's pretty much every material, like every time there's brick, sheet rock, whatever, wherever they're going, if the antennas are inside, they need to replace it with one that's RF compatible, but they design them to look exactly like what's there.
Do you know what the material is? Is it like a?
It's usually like a fiberglass, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Because you have to get a building permit for that in addition to
Clear.
everything else.
Yeah.
So it's clear, or it's lighter?
It'll look like.
It'd be the same
the
color
existing
from what's
roof.
up there.
It'll look with the color and everything. It's just for some reason the signal can get through that material, but can't get through most.
That's what it means.
Okay. So the structural analysis report prepared and stamped by Patrick J. Davis, licensed New York State PE, last dated July 8th, 2019, analyzed the existing antenna supporting structures and found that the proposed Verizon equipment and rooftop assembly replacement by others does not adversely affect the structural integrity of the existing structure. The facility also received a special permit approval from the town board on October 7th, 2008 by Town Board Resolution Number 853. And this was not referred to Suffolk County Planning Commission because minor additions less than 10,000 square feet with no change to use or occupancy do not require referral to Suffolk County Planning Commission. Staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency, issue negative declaration, and grant the administrative approval to Verizon Wireless to install a small cell public utility wireless communication facility with the following condition: that prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, a post-construction analysis prepared by a licensed New York State PE certifying that all work conforms to the approved plans, design, and any structural requirements.
So the special permit that you referred to in 2008, what was that specifically for?
Was that for the tower?
For the tower, yes.
Just the tower? Or was the tower built for T-Mobile at the time?
It was for the installation of a wireless facility for cell phones.
Okay. But was it specific just for one carrier, or?
I'm not sure, I can look into that.
Can we look at that? And the other question, will the building department be involved with this at all? Because if they're taking that roof off,
Yeah.
they should be involved with the.
There's a building permit application for
Okay.
it all, in with the building department.
Yeah, most of the special permits I've seen for the towers were not for one provider.
Well, if it's, it probably, if you have it, I would probably think that it says for cell carrier use and not
Right.
specific to one, but we should just verify that.
Yep, I have the permit, the
Resolution. Here, let's take a look.
Okay, this was for the tower and then the 8 antennas that are already in there. It does not say for any other future.
Also, the town code provides for the co-location of additional antennas on an existing tower as a permitted use.
So the special permit was not for the tower. There's already an existing 65-foot pylon sign out there, to which they merely sought to put the antennas inside of it. So, if they can fit it inside it's like putting it inside an existing building like a church steeple, so, I would say that, they could go ahead and do that without a special permit.
Special permit that is in place covers it, you're telling us.
Yeah, it should, that was for those providers, but not for the tower. The tower was a pylon sign. So the tower is a sign, it's already there, so it's like putting it inside of an existing building.
Okay. All right, and the FCC compliance is in order and the structural's in order, so.
Yep. We'll just make sure when the building permit application comes in, it definitely will have to include the roof replacement.
Yeah.
The drawings for the roof replacement that were submitted here were submitted to the building
Yep, the
department as
stealth
well.
drawings, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yep, I
those
got
roof
those.
details are on there?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Keep this and give this to you, Joe. All right. Okay, no public hearing scheduled today. Any public comment on the resolutions? Any public comment? Okay. Resolution 88.
I'll move resolution 88, Verizon Wireless at Tanger Outlets, granting administrative approval for the site plan to modify the existing wireless communication facility. So
Second.
moved.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 88 for Verizon Wireless for administrative approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 2 on the agenda.
Discussion on number 2.
Okay.
406 Osborne. According to the resolution, there was relief from the zoning board. You know what the relief was for?
Was it a setback?
Yeah, or parking, one or the other,
What, 2 parking stalls?
Parking stalls, right.
Okay. And I see they're putting 9-foot stalls in here, which I'm opposed to. I cannot say that I'm really happy about the elevations. I don't think it's a good-looking building. Concerned about the buffering to the neighbor to the west. I think it's a very intense project for 0.43 acres. Are you guys gonna let the 9-foot stalls go, or?
Not me.
Well,
We didn't,
I have to say that I will be
Carissa, do you remember what the
voting
variances were for?
okay.
because of the size of the.
Yeah, can you, Carissa's gonna pull up the variances right now.
The size of the units are too small.
I'm just going by what the resolution says.
Can't see that.
So,
I think he's gonna vote against it.
Carissa's calling up the resolution right now.
You want 10-footers?
You?
Uh,
I got another thing coming up with 10-footers here.
Yeah.
That item I gave you from the news review.
so, but why did we allow them to go to zoning when they were in front of us for the 2-spot variance when they would've been asking for more if we required them to have the biggest stalls?
Good question, I don't know.
I'm
the
not,
answer.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
yes or no, it's just a question, why did we get this far and let them go there? Because maybe if they would've put 10-footers in, they would've needed a variance for 3 or 4 stalls.
Why don't we hold it off?
Not a bigger problem.
Right.
Let's
Could've
hold it
been,
off.
right. Your question's a different one.
It's different, yeah. That's
Right.
what I
Did
brought
you
that
wanna
up.
state that for the-
I brought that up at
You brought that up at the
time when
meeting, yeah.
when they
Did you
did
show
it
nine
for
foot
us, I
stalls
brought
back
it up
then?
at the public hearing, I believe that.
Did you show the 9
Units
foot
that they're
stalls?
supplying are much too small, which can be remedied by just dropping one out and taking that 500 square feet and putting it into the other plant.
Why don't we hold it off?
If you wanna hold it over, until the next meeting,
Well, I think hold it over, yes, we'll maybe ask somebody to make a motion to hold it over, but to get them back.
okay.
I'll make a motion, hold on.
Second motion?
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to table or hold over, Resolution 89. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll bring it up next meeting, if you could get them back here, please.
Yep.
Any public comment on any planning board matter? Anyone? Okay.
Make a motion that we move the Riverhead Planning Board, minutes from September 5th, 2019.
Second.
Nope. Yeah,
September 5th?
September 5th, yeah, 2019, so moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of September 5th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are adopted.
Go into,
Hold 1 second, Chairman, you want to clarify, it says next meeting
Yeah, I
date?
will.
Okay.
I see it. Do you have something to speak about?
copy of the news review,
Right.
article on the, project of downtown, which is not our ball game, but what, it's another one of what, you wanna shrink parking, build a building and, look for, what's the terminology? Provide any parking, variance, looking for a variance from the code of 10/20.
This,
I don't know how we wanna transmit anything. Thoughts on the subject, it's not our ball game, and, suggestions are open.
I agree with Dick, I agree with Dick 100%, there should be 10/20s. The one thing that I did read in here that I liked, that there was one stall for each apartment, I do like that fact, but I'm not for less than 10/20s. We're gonna have a parking problem down when all these other,
I
right
mean,
now it's still ink on
it's
paper,
brand
we
new
can fix
building,
it.
you're trying to do the best you can downtown, and.
Is this the building that's being constructed now, or is
No,
it the
this
one
is-
that's gonna go next to it?
This is where the
New is
subway building
proposed.
is
The
now.
one's gonna go next to it.
Yeah, you know where the subway building is? That's the
Yeah.
property.
So, what's the board feeling? Maybe we do a memo of concern to the town board, since it's their jurisdiction.
And you
Even more
could-
than concerned, we don't recognize the planning
And if you want,
department board,
if
we
you
don't
wanna go
recommend.
one step further and just tap in the zoning board, because that's where they're gonna be going.
Well, the town board is the lead agency, so I think we should go to the town board.
But they'll go to the zoning board for the variance.
Well, we could copy them on our concern.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, so we'll prepare a memo.
So you want 10 by 20 stalls? Do you prefer the 10 by 20 stalls and reduce
Town
number of
code.
parking spaces?
Pardon?
If we go with the 10-foot wide stalls, we're gonna lose parking spaces.
Good.
Well,
So is
maybe
is
the
that,
developer's gonna have to worry about
Shrink
that.
a couple apartments.
Yep, a couple less apartments or whatever.
right now, there's no parking requirement, because in DC1, there's no
Well,
parking requirement.
But
I know, but
this is
the
a concern
reality-
that we have.
So you prefer the 10-foot, I'm just,
Yes.
okay.
I think, I think the code should go 10 by 22. That's my feeling.
No
Size
big trucks
cars are getting
allowed.
Bigger.
By way of information.
We'll work on that
apartment
again.
that's being built now, what do they have? Do we know?
I don't remember. That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't remember.
No, because that could be
Give 'em
thrown in
an
our
extra
face.
2 foot.
Why didn't you say something about the other one?
Well, we're
We'll
learning.
be doing the master plan, maybe we'll get it in there.
Too late.
It's low run.
So Jefferson, if you could just share it with us before.
Yeah,
we-
I'll draft up something for you to just send, and I won't be able to get to you until Monday, I'm off tomorrow.
Okay, next meeting is October 3rd at 7 PM. Any other discussion items anyone wanna bring up? Okay, motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Don't run away.